We're here in the studio with Mrs. Pearlmania. She has a lot to say this morning about all sorts of topics that she's been studying all week. Because you're listening to a podcast, and not just any podcast. This is the only podcast where a husband and wife duo sit across from each other at a desk, where one of them, specifically Mrs. Pearlmania, has been doing research. And she has been doing research on quacks. That's right, not ducks, but people who go into the medical profession for nefarious purposes. Because we're in the middle of Quack Month. Quack, 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 quack. That's right, and you're listening to Too Many Tabs. Again, it's the only podcast. The only podcast. It's the only podcast.
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember to smile.
We're back.
We're here.
We're back. We're ready to quack.
We are getting quack attacked.
Hold this.
I'm holding, what is this?
Okay.
You handed me documents.
Yeah, you just want to hold that for me right now.
Okay.
There's just not a lot of space on my desk right
so
here.
I have a folder of documents, which I believe these are visuals.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know what they are, but we're here for another episode, as we have stated previously on the warm up.
Yep. Last week's warm up.
Last week's warm up. This is a pre-recorded episode.
Yep.
I'm not going to be around for the week.
He's going to Chi-Town, baby.
I'm going to Chicago, going to go meet people and do things.
And I get a week off.
You get a week of just baby. And I am going to be gone. So because of that, we're going to pre-record this episode, which means that this week, the week of August 20th, there is no Patreon exclusive warm-up, but also there won't be any shout-outs at the end of this week. So those will be moved on to the next week's episode. So if you join us...
Double wrap-up.
A double wrap. No, we're not going to do a double wrap. There's absolutely no... That's just an episode at that point. For those of you guys who haven't heard...
Not a wrap-up. It's a warm-up. I don't know why
the
I call
warm-up.
it wrap-up.
I don't know why I call it, and whatever I call it. The warm-up, though, is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It's about a 20, 30 minute where we just kind of
warm up.
We warm up. We get
We
used to what it's like to talk to each other as human beings and adults. But that's a fun one that people really have been enjoying. And so with that, before we get started, I would like to remind everybody in September, I have a lot of dates. Go to the show notes because I'm going to be out in the field telling jokes to people live on stage.
On the streets.
On the streets.
So, would you like to hear a joke?
I'm going to be in the streets of Jersey City. I'm going to be in the streets of Philadelphia.
What are you, fucking Bruce Springsteen?
I'm going to be in the streets of Philadelphia.
Okay.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Well, this is a radio level microphone now.
Yeah.
So I have to do radio level jokes.
Yeah, and I have the microphone that white guys get when they're like, we should do a podcast about going to the gym.
Okay, well, I'll upgrade yours next week. How about that? All right? And so without any further ado, I'll also be in St. Louis and Indianapolis.
My God, Jesus Christ.
Would you let me do my plugs?
No.
Okay, so let's get started. Today's episode is about...
Barbara O'Neill.
I don't know who that is.
Exactly. I'm going to tell you who it is.
Okay, we're going to learn all about Barbara O'Neill after these messages, or if you're a Patreon member, right after this little noise. And we're here, and again, I forgot to plug our friend. His name was Dusk, who has a new music video out. He has a new music video that was made by Shadow Studios. It is from his first single, Fine Alone. You can find that in the links down in the description of this episode or of the YouTube or any of those different places. Or you can go to hisnamewasdust.com. His Name Was Dust does all of our music here on the show.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy a quack. He is not a quack. He is a good guy. But apparently there is a quack named April O'Neil.
I said Barbara.
Well, April O'Neil was the reporter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, obviously.
So whenever I hear O'Neil, I automatically add the word April.
Yeah.
And then I backtrack from there.
Because you're like Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles, listen, we have a boy. We have a child who's a boy.
I got to find him that truck we had when we were little where that shoots the pizza out, remember?
Yeah, I remember.
We got to find that at the thrift store.
Yeah. Okay, you ready to do this?
Listen, I gotta tell you this.
Okay.
This is the last episode of Quack Month.
Yeah.
At the end of August.
Yeah.
So last week we recorded an episode about the history of chiropractors.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk to you about a classic quack.
A classic
quackery quack, but in modern times.
Okay.
I want to bring it because, last time I talked about quacks, it's like the 1900s. We're doing enemas. We're punching people in the head.
Yeah.
There's a goat testicle. Quackery has no bounds, really.
Yeah.
But I've always stuck to the past.
Yeah.
I wanted to come a little closer to home.
So this is a quack who's operating today?
We got a quack in real time.
Oh, wow. Real-time quacking, everybody.
Real-time quackery. So I want to tell you about Barbara O'Neill. She was born. There's not a lot. I don't know a lot about her past because it's not available. Born July 28th of 1953.
You don't know a lot about her past. Here's her exact birth date, though.
Well, I can find her birth date.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. She's an Australian alternative health promoter.
I already have a bad feeling. Because every time you've ever mentioned an Australian, it's never gone well on this show.
Well,
The banana lady.
Oh, Freely the Banana Girl.
Yeah, Freely the Banana Girl.
Uh-huh.
And then
Hillsong.
Hillsong. Every time you've mentioned an Australian, it's gone bananas.
Australia is America's other side of our coin.
Yeah.
Right? We got kicked out of of Great Britain.
Yeah.
For doing chaotic bad things.
So
they just got a different thing.
So what happened was with Australia, they used to send all their criminals here. And then we left the empire.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, we got to find a new place. And they found Australia. And they were like, it's even further away.
Yeah.
Send the most crazies over there.
Yeah.
We got mostly the religious crazies.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
We got all the religious criminals. They got all the regular schmegular
They got all
criminals.
the criminals.
So there's a lot of vibes that we match when it comes to Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. So O'Neill has promoted herself as a naturopath, a nutritionist, and a health educator since at least 2004.
Okay.
Okay. She presents these claims at alternative medicine organizations, wellness retreats, and at Seventh-day Adventist churches.
Oh, she's a Seventh-day Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that never ends well.
She's married to a guy named Michael O'Neill,
Okay.
and he is the founder of the Informed Medical Options Party. Who are they? The Informed Medical Options Party, formerly known as Involuntary Medication Objectors Party of the Australian political party system. The party's only policies oppose compulsory vaccination programs and water fluoridation, and they have never successfully had a candidate elected.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they really popped off during the pandemic.
Listen, I want to throw this out there because so they were probably the people who were marching around with signs.
Yeah.
In Australia, because I remember during the pandemic, during lockdown and stuff like that, Australia had a lot of nut jobs.
Yeah.
That came out of the woodwork there because it was also like, I think it was warmer over there. So they're like, why are we all being locked inside? Or however they speak in Australia.
They also don't have they don't have the same type of air conditioning we do, and their houses are built differently.
Yeah.
So like
They're
when it's hot, it's fucking hot.
You mean to tell me that Australians are built different?
I do mean that.
No, but also the other thing too that they did in Australia that we didn't do here was you weren't allowed to go from province to province.
Yeah.
They actually shut down like transportation.
Yeah.
So people like it was a much more strict lockdown. Like here they were like, hey, maybe don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
And don't get 10,000 people in a church. And that broke people's brains.
Boo.
In Australia, they were like, if you're a pizza delivery man and you cross this street, we will arrest you.
Yeah, arrested.
So it was much different.
Okay. So Barbara O'Neill ran this retreat called the Misty Mountain Health Retreat with her husband.
The Misty Mountains?
The Misty Mountain Health Retreat.
So like the Hobbit?
Misty Mountain Health Retreat.
Okay.
Charging clients as much as $2,450 per person for a 1-week stay, or about $8,800 for 2 people for 2 weeks. Okay, so these are prices.
Okay, so 2,000. Well, if you double that and then double it again, that is 8. So like,
again.
I mean, 2,000 for a week vacation. That's
At the health retreat.
yeah. What did you get at the health retreat? Did you say?
She provided detox services, claiming to aid recovery from heart disease, diabetes, hormonal imbalances, chronic fatigue, fungus and candida, drug addiction, cancer, heartburn, and obesity.
All of this from an enema?
Yep, basically.
Because that's the detox always just means enema or drinking a shake that makes you poop.
Green tea and kale.
It's just about making you poop a lot.
So I went to the Misty Mountain Retreats website.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see how would Barbara describe herself.
Would she describe herself like Smog the Dragon?
It says, quote, I was a trained nurse and also a lover of nature. After a severe problem with my first child that was not responding to mainstream treatment, I started a journey into the natural field. I read everything and experimented on my children with success. Natural treatments are harmless and cause no dangerous side effects. I am a lover of the Creator and creation. I am convinced that the body was designed to heal itself and will do so given the right conditions. My job is to teach those conditions. I'm not a healer. I'm a teacher. Your body is the healer, and I love to teach whoever is interested the conditions that allow and encourage this amazing body we live in to do what it's designed to do, heal itself.
Did she? So she thinks people are Deadpool. She thinks we have a healing factor. Like, I mean, beyond like scar tissue.
And
like
your
anytime they're like,
kidneys and liver.
Yeah, anytime they're like, hey, and those like barely. Those are barely. But anytime someone's like, oh, it'll heal itself. I'm like, no, it won't. Mm-hmm. If I chop off my hand, I don't grow back a new one. All right, that is only Ryan Reynolds can do that.
I don't think we should be talking about him right now because we're 2 weeks out from whatever's going on with this cancellation of his wife right now.
But that's his wife.
And
that's not.
They're starting to drag him in.
They're dragging in Deadpool.
They're dragging in Deadpool.
But he's Deadpool.
Listen, I don't know what's going to happen.
But what
this
about
is a future episode?
But what about his Cardiff soccer team?
Okay,
I'm not done picking on her statement.
Okay,
though.
go ahead.
Because there was so much to unpack there. She said, I don't want to gloss over the fact that she said she experimented on her kids.
She experimented on her
said,
kids.
I experimented on her kids.
Yeah.
And also, again, I don't know what it is between her and J.K. Rowling. It's like they had a kid and they were like, all right, now's the chance.
Yep.
Let's jump off. I guess it's the Eminem thing. I mean, we kind of did it too.
What?
Where it's like when you have the kid, you're like, I have to do this now or I'm never doing it. Do you know what I mean? Especially with first kid. Where like maybe she was interested in homeopathy.
Okay.
And then she had the first kid and was like, she's home. They're up late at night with the baby.
What is the Eminem thing?
With him with his baby. He had his daughter, I think it's Haley, right?
Oh, Haley.
And he was like, I have this moment. I have to make it as a rapper right now.
Got it.
Or I need to go work at Walmart.
Exactly.
Because
okay.
like you have that sink or swim moment with when you have your first kid of like, you're like, I maybe have at best a year.
Yeah.
Because once I can see them forming memories, I don't want them to be forming memories of this level of stress.
Yeah.
Or all these different things. Which is why I've chosen this time to go on tour throughout September. And you can see me in Jersey City. You can see me in Philadelphia, St. Louis, Indianapolis, or a makeup date in Arizona. Let's not forget about Arizona.
Never.
But yeah, these are all different things. But that statement, also the creator, if I want to tell you something. If I'm ever at the doctor's office and the nurse starts talking to me about God,
Yeah.
I'm never going back to that doctor's office
Yeah.
again. I'm there to talk about what's going on in my butt. Okay?
Listen,
Don't
know.
bring
Don't bring God into some weird stuff.
Don't bring any books into something, okay?
Listen.
I don't want anything that isn't a medical textbook when we're talking about what's going on in my butt.
So she's running the Misty Mountain Health Retreat and allowing YouTube videos to be made of her doing public speaking events about her alternative medicine belief systems.
Okay, but she's
Okay.
talking all Australian the whole time.
Between October 2018 and January 2019, the New South Wales Healthcare Complaints Commission, that's the HCCC, received several complaints from health practitioners and the general public about O'Neill's health advice. These included a complaint that advice she'd provided regarding infant nutrition could have caused death if followed. So the Healthcare Complaints Commission now lives under a different program in Australia in New South Wales. It's such a hard name to say. It's called the HPCA.
Okay.
And so here are too many tabs. We take things being allegedly very seriously, right?
Do I need to hit the button?
No, you don't have to hit the button
Okay.
yet. We take our opinions
Yes.
and the silly billies all very seriously.
Yeah.
And so
We often talk in hyperbole.
because we're making jokes about these situations,
Yeah.
right? But we don't want to get the facts wrong because, we don't want to be libelous towards someone.
No.
In that spirit, I've called the HPCA and I got redacted documents. Can you hand those to me?
These documents, right? That's what's in this folder? That's what's in this folder right here. What's this number that's on the folder?
I can't tell you that.
What do you mean you called them?
Can I have that, please? So in order to make sure I'm as accurate as possible, I have gotten and printed out, because we got a friggin' printer.
Yeah. This
the
is
exact complaint from the Australian government.
Oh my, let me see this. Oh, this is thick. This is not thin. This is 18 pages.
Instead of me making a Cliff Notes edition of what was said and what the outcomes were, I'm going to read to you directly from it.
Oh my God.
Here, give it to me.
There you go.
Thank you.
You can read it to me.
Okay, so this is Barbara O'Neill's Healthcare Complaints Commission Statement of Decision.
This is okay.
Number one, these are the complaints that were lodged.
Okay.
We're going to start with the complaints.
Complaint number 1.
Mrs. Barbara O'Neill is an unregistered practitioner who describes herself as an author, educator, qualified naturopath, and nutritionist, and an international speaker on natural self-healing. There are many videos of Mrs. O'Neill's lectures and seminars on health and nutrition available on YouTube and other websites. Mrs. O'Neill has also published several books on health and nutrition. From 1998 onwards, Mrs. O'Neill has worked across 3 health retreats in Queensland, Victoria, and NSW, New South Wales.
Yeah.
Complaint number 2. From October 2018 to January 2019, the Commission received a number of complaints regarding Miss O'Neill. All complaints relate to claims Miss O'Neill has made in her publications and lectures regarding infant nutrition, causes and treatments of cancer, antibiotics, and vaccines. By way of summary, the concerns raised in these complaints are that Miss O'Neill makes dubious health claims and are not evidence-based or supported in mainstream medicine. The complaints have been made by concerned members of the public, including registered nurses, dietitians, nutritionists, and vaccine advocacy groups. The details of each complaint, Miss O'Neill responses, and the Commission's investigations are set out in paragraph 5 below. And the third complaint. Pursuant of Section 41AA of the Health Care Complaints Act of 1993, the Commission made an interim prohibition order restricting Miss O'Neill from providing any health services with effect from December 2018. The terms of the order include that Miss O'Neill not provide any health services of any description to any person. Further, the interim prohibition orders have been made for the next 8 weeks. Okay, so these are 3 complaints.
When is this document from?
This is from 2018 to 2019.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So here are the issues. Number 2, Section 2, issues. The Commission investigated the following issues in this case. Whether Miss O'Neill breached the Code of Conduct for unregistered health practitioners during her provision of health services. And 2, whether Miss O'Neill poses a risk to the health and safety of the members of the public. The respondent. Miss O'Neill was born in July 28th, 1953. That's where I got it from, baby. And is currently 66 years old.
That's where you found it?
None of her past information is anywhere.
Yeah?
She did not put it out there.
Okay. Maybe she used delete me.
Prior to the imposition of the interim prohibition order on Mrs. O'Neill in December of 2018, she was working as a health director at the health lecturer at the Misty Mountain Health Retreat, located in NSW. The next one says, Miss O'Neill is a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and mainly conducts health lectures to her co-religionists, which are predominantly organized by the church. Okay, so I'm going to put this one over here. Right. I'm sorry, I don't want to miss anything.
Okay.
Now, let's see. Health lectures and books. We're in section 5 now.
Okay.
So they're interviewing her. She's coming to the commission, and the commission is interviewing her with the panel. During the interview, Miss O'Neill confirmed that she first started lecturing in around 1992, mostly in churches. Miss O'Neill explained that her lecturing was religious-based on the 8 laws of health. Mrs. O'Neill states that this came about as there were people in her local area seeking alternatives to medications and drugs. Mrs. O'Neill used to give meetings to local mothers to discuss alternate therapies for common ailments. Mrs. O'Neill stated she's never advertised herself and gained popularity through word of mouth. According to Mrs. O'Neill, she does not have anything to do with the videos being uploaded to the internet. However, she concedes that she has given permission for her lectures to be filmed and disseminated.
So she's claiming that the videos that are going up online, she has nothing to do with. It's just fans. These
They're
are
just fan- just
These are
fans.
fan edits.
Yeah, fan edits.
Okay, these are fan edits that are being put up that are promoting her, that are telling people to go to specific locations to see her. Okay, got it.
Yeah. There are many videos of Mrs. O'Neill's lectures and seminars on health and nutrition available on YouTube and other websites. Mrs. O'Neill has also published several books on health and nutrition. In its investigation, the commission has focused on the publications set out in paragraph 4 below. Consultation outside of the retreats.
Okay.
In some of her lectures, Mrs. O'Neill makes reference to people ringing her for health advice. For example, in her lecture entitled Cancer, Causes and Treatment, Mrs. O'Neill refers to a mother ringing her for advice to treat burns sustained by her child. Okay, so you call the lady down the street.
But also the lecture is called Cancer and Treatment. So she's prescribing treatment in the lecture.
I would never say that.
Okay.
Okay.
But that's what she's saying.
I would never say that.
That's what she's saying
That's the
in
title of the YouTube video.
Okay, but it's also the title of the lecture. It's like, hi, what's your lecture about? It's how to treat cancer. I am not a doctor, by the way. This is not financial advice.
During the interview, Mrs. O'Neill also confirmed that she had provided telephone consults to people in the past. She would charge a fee for advice provided. Mrs. O'Neill stated that due to high demand, she decided to discontinue this practice about a year or 18 months ago. Mrs. O'Neill stated that she had kept written records of the telephone advice and consults provided. However, in response to the commission's S34-A notice dated July 2019, Miss O'Neill stated that she does not have any records of these consults without offering any explanation.
Okay, so she was like, I didn't keep a ledger.
Yeah, I didn't keep a ledger.
Okay.
So I don't know what their IRS is, but they should have some questions.
Yeah, so she was getting paid. People were calling her and being like, I have a problem. And she's like, do this. Rub Eye of Newt on it.
Venmo me.
And then, well, whatever they had. I guess it'd probably be PayPal.
Probably PayPal.
Yeah, PayPal, or maybe they mailed a check. Or actually, they have IBAN services in every country that isn't America. So you can do like free bank transfers.
Oh.
We're trying to get that here. There's been a lobbying group keeping that away.
Called to the section titled Summary of Evidence.
Okay.
First little chunk here is titled Infant Nutrition.
Okay, fuck this lady. I just want to throw that out there real quick. The second, because I didn't mention it earlier, but when you brought up the stuff about babies and about baby health, like it was getting RFK vibes, RFK and Samoa vibes.
Yep.
And I'm about to get real mad. Okay.
Yeah.
Infant nutrition. As somebody who's been with you, currently making sure a baby eats solid foods.
Yep.
I can't wait to hear what Mrs. O'Neill, whose picture, by the way, I pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
I did pull up just to look at, to see, and I would not trust this lady with my mail.
Yeah.
She looks like someone who'd be like, you've been getting sinister packages.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. It was
people
her.
Send us cool books to the P.O. box.
It's a picture of her in front of a hedge.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is every picture of her in front of a hedge?
She looks nice next to a plant.
Also, I don't understand why she is in Australia, but every picture looks like she's in Scotland.
J.K. Rowling. So, infant nutrition. On October 16, 2018, the commission received a complaint from Person A concerning dietary advice that Mrs. O'Neill had been providing to parents on her website, barbhealth.com.
Barb Health.
In form of a downloadable article titled, What Shall I Feed My Baby? According to Person A, the foods and feeding schedule outlined by Mrs. O'Neill contradict the National Health and Medical Research Council's infant feeding guidelines for the health of children. And if followed, it would lead to faltering growth, injury, or death of the infant. In particular, Person A raised concerns regarding Mrs. O'Neill's promotion of raw goat's milk as an alternative to infant formula. Extracted below are Mrs. O'Neill's statements in her article about alternatives to breastfeeding. Quote, milk formula made from powder milk is dead milk. Babies need live milk, as breast milk is live, being full of enzymes. Here are some alternatives of live alternative formulas. Almond date milk, banana milk, juice, goat's milk, milk from a healthy goat. That's the end of the quote.
This is crazy.
In her response to the commission from 2018, Mrs. O'Neill stated that the information she presented in this article comes from her own experiences with her own children and many others, as she has seemed to be helping them. Quote, regarding the goat's milk, This has been used as an alternative milk to breast milk for thousands of years. Carry Care and other companies produce goat's formula, and many mothers have found this to be very effective when babies have shown allergies to cow's milk. Traditionally, especially in Europe, raw goat's milk has been given to babies and children. I have met many who were raised on this. There may be a problem if the goat is not healthy and the milking conditions are not clean. I trust the average parent's common sense will guide them.
Raw
goat milk.
Unpasteurized.
Uh-huh.
That's the words. It hasn't, no bacteria has been boiled out of it.
Nope.
Dubious storage. All of these different things. The reason why she has met children who are better from doing this is because she's not meeting the ones who have died.
Yep.
Like, there's a reason why. There are so many reasons. I hate these people so much.
Yeah.
Because whether it comes to raw milk or vaccines, they always make up a bunch of random shit. And whenever they ask for the data, I just want to walk them to any fucking cemetery that has tiny headstones before 1900. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to fucking do. And just say, hey, it's weird how all the tiny headstone market fell off.
Yeah.
Why did the fucking tiny headstone market fall off, Barbara O'Neill?
Because we started boiling the milk to the right temperature.
Yeah, and we started vaccinating babies.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason why. Like, fuck this lady.
Yep. During the interview, Mrs. O'Neill stated that she doesn't advise mothers to give, quote, real goat's milk to infants, but tells them to get goat's milk formula, which is readily available at supermarkets. When it was pointed out to Mrs. O'Neill that this contradicted her written article and response to the commission, she stated that she should have been, quote, clearer and, quote, redefine the reference to formula. So in front of the commission, she tried to say that she meant it was goat milk formula and not that it was raw goat's milk and banana milk. Like, there's a banana milk formula. Come on.
Okay.
Also, like, shout out to Freely the Banana Girl
Yeah.
and Banana Milk Baby. Like,
oh my God.
what's going
Banana
on?
milk, baby. Let's go.
We're never pooping. We got banana milk. During the interview, Mrs. O'Neill confirmed that she had not ever read a copy of the NHMRC infant feeding guidelines. So that's the National Health and Medical Research Council's infant feeding guidelines. She's never read them. She admits
For
to
Australia.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. No, just real quick. Let's just calm. Let's
take a breath.
Goose Frava, right? Like, let's just like calm down a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So this lady is telling people to not feed their children properly.
Yep.
So that way their kids won't. Because listen, if you starve your kid to death, or you give them raw goat's milk that has bacteria in it, and your kid dies, you know what'll happen? Your kid will never get cancer or autism. That's her point. Is like, that's what's so crazy here. And what she's addicted to is people turning to her as a sage. Mm-hmm. You stated previously that she claims she has nursing experience, but she has no other experience.
I mean, we're going to get into that.
We're going to get into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when asked by the commission officers whether it was incumbent on her to read these guidelines before publishing advice regarding infant nutrition, Miss O'Neill stated, quote, quite possibly, but said most of the time, I really see myself as the teacher.
What? Okay.
She doesn't need to learn anything because she already knows all the things.
She's giving that lady who's unschooling her kid.
Yeah. Oh, the unschooling lady?
Yeah, she's giving the unschooling lady. Mm-hmm. That's what she's giving me right now. For those of you guys who don't know, there's a movement of people who believe that school is so evil that they are keeping their kids dumb on purpose.
But they don't even homeschool.
They don't even homeschool. They just have their kid just sits there and watches TV and looks at the iPad all day.
I need to say something. This is deep lore.
Yeah.
Years ago, many decades ago, I don't know, I used to teach K-12 to little kids.
Yes.
And teaching homeschool classes K-12 is a lot of work. And so, like, you can't even, like, I have my thoughts and concerns about homeschooling as a alternative to public schools, because why they want to defend public schools is the whole thing. Defund public schools.
Yeah.
But, like, just being like, no, I'm not doing that either. I'm just going to have my kids run around all day and then never teach them to read or write.
Yeah.
Is insane.
And then be shocked when they go to jail because my kid can't even do enough math to understand how to pay taxes. At the bare minimum, Like that's just, you're just creating someone who will be grifted by a lady like Mrs. O'Neill. Like that's the other favorite thing too. As you're reading it, they go there. They don't say doctor. It's Mrs.
Yeah, Mrs. O'Neill.
Mrs. O'Neill. Barbara.
Barbs.
If it just said Barbara.
Barb.
Then told parents to give raw goat's milk to infants.
Barb.
Because the infants were colicky. Like, what the fuck are we talking about
So
right
listen,
now?
let's veer away from kids because it's clearly upsetting.
Yeah, it's very upsetting to me right now.
Let's talk about the next chapter in this little commission complaint called Causes and Treatment of Cancer.
Okay.
I'm sure this will be way better.
Okay.
All right. On December 2018, the commission received a complaint from person B, who was a registered nurse. They have that noted here.
Oh, okay.
Regarding advice that Mrs. O'Neill had been providing in her lectures regarding the causes and treatments of cancer. Statement 1. Mrs. O'Neill cites a thoroughly discredited theory that cancer is caused by fungus. So there's this oncologist from Italy called Tullio Simonici.
Yeah.
And he said that cancer is caused by fungus.
Okay.
Okay. And so she's citing him as the source over and over again for this.
Okay.
Okay. So you just need
So
to know
she found one line in one document from one guy who said all of cancer is this.
fungus.
And then she was like, bet. I'm gonna build my entire argument on this one line from this one guy in another country where no one respects him.
Mrs. O'Neill creates fear and distrust in mainstream medicine by claiming that his theory is not acknowledged by doctors because, quote, if cancer is a fungus and if fungus plays a role in the majority of diseases, then medicine would have to acknowledge that, and some of their main medications are putting into people they'd have to redact.
So do you know who Hank Green is?
Yeah.
Okay. Hank Green a while ago said one of the best debunking of that idea.
Yeah.
The idea that we only, I mean, there is some to we only treat symptoms. There is a little bit to that.
Yeah.
But the idea that they'll never actually cure cancer because it's more profitable. He pointed out, do you know who the Sacklers are?
Yeah.
Okay. So the
opiate people.
Yeah, the people who pushed Oxycontin
Yeah.
into everything. They made billions and billions of dollars.
They killed an entire generation.
An entire generation of people. The Sacklers are some of the most evil people to ever exist. They were deep into the big pharma game as well.
Yeah.
They were very big into all of that different stuff. The patriarch of the Sackler family died of cancer.
Yeah.
So if there is a secret cancer
Cure.
you
Sacklers would have had
You
it.
don't think the fucking Sackler, the head of the Sacklers,
Remember
would have
when
taken
they
it?
did the reading of those? They did Michael Keaton reading the Sackler.
Oh, yeah,
documents.
yeah.
Oh, such an incredible video.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's just something to keep in mind whenever you hear grifters like this, whenever these type of things that are going to happen, look around. Just look around and say, hey, did someone richer than us buy their way out of it? Because if they haven't, then there isn't an escape hatch.
No, because Steve Jobs,
No, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
who Katy Perry killed.
Yeah.
Through her quackery, allegedly.
You gotta. Anytime you say Steve Jobs, gotta get a hand on that button.
Aim your hand towards that thing.
Because I saw a video.
That's just my opinion.
I saw a video of Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom jumping
no.
out of a helicopter.
They're doing anything to try to make that album work. Anyway,
Anything.
next up.
Wait, real fast. Real
Okay.
fast. I just want to go back to this cancer thing really fast.
I'm not
because
even leaving the cancer.
I know you aren't, but I just want to get my thoughts out
Yeah,
because
okay.
you've been reading at me for a bit here, and it's very upsetting. The one thing is to keep in mind for everyone out there, and I'm sure our listeners have had people in their life who've had cancer and have seen people go through this. When you get into a desperate situation like this where it seems like there isn't a way out, then turning to these people will offer at least a little bit of solace. So
hope.
it might help people sleep.
Yeah.
And so in that, I will never fault somebody for falling for one of these assholes.
Yeah.
That's just really what it comes down to. And they will point, in this lady's case, she will find someone who is another quack sitting in a different country and point to them. The same way the anti-vax people here in America pointed to that one British doctor. And when you go back to that other person, that other source they always point to, you can always end up finding that other source is trying to sell something. I guarantee you that this Italian doctor is probably pushing an antifungal med that he may or may not have something in.
Foot cream.
A little bit of foot cream, a little bit of something. The same way the anti-vax doctor who started the whole thing about the MMR vaccine causing autism, he was pushing his own vaccine. to fight MMR, to fight measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah.
The same way the people who said that the COVID vaccine should actually be used by ivermectin are still currently selling ivermectin on live streams of Donald Trump's speeches across America.
Mrs. O'Neill offers a program at Misty Mountain for people with cancer that includes sodium bicarbonate wraps, alkaline diets, hyperbaric oxygen, probiotics, and orbital rearranged monatomic elements. I guess they're just going to look at stuff. Mrs. O'Neill claims that her woman named Elizabeth went under this program and the tumors in her abdomen disappeared. I just want to clarify, sodium bicarbonate is baking soda.
Baking soda wraps.
That's baking soda.
Yeah. This is 1900 shit.
I know.
That's what's crazy.
This is past times quackery.
If she just started punching them in the forehead, I'd be like, all right.
I was looking the whole time. I was like, did she punch him in the head a little bit? Because I'm telling you, it's a parallel universe. Mrs. O'Neill's dietary advice to patients with cancer is dangerous as it encourages removal of essential food groups from their diet. In her video, Mrs. O'Neill states for cancer diet, quote, no fruit for 6 weeks, no wheat for 6 weeks, and very little carbohydrates. Mrs. O'Neill absolves herself of responsibility by stating that she cannot cure anyone, but she can teach people to give the body, quote, the right conditions to heal itself.
I want to tell you right now, if I had cancer and they told me I had to eat gluten-free to get rid of the cancer, I would just die.
I have to eat gluten-free so I don't get cancer.
I know, and I'm surprised every day that you smile. I want you to know that. It's the fucking miserable. But also no fruit.
I know. I can't have fruit.
No, listen.
What about it's mango season right now,
this
baby?
This is
Peaches.
This is one of those things where we've talked about because we both worked for a vegan catering company, and the food was good.
Oh my God, yeah.
But if you had to remove meat and also be gluten free, but hers is even worse. No fruit,
no fruit,
no oranges,
nope,
no apples,
nope,
nothing.
I'm telling you right now with the peaches.
She just Banana Freely should fight her.
Banana Freely should fight her.
Freely, I want Freely versus Barbara O'Neill. And I want to have it in a billionaire tube at the bottom of the ocean. In
response to the commission, Mrs. O'Neill claims that she's not stating, quote, that fungus is the only cause of cancer at all, end quote. However, the commission notes that there is no reference to any other causes of cancer in her publications. In Chapter 6 of her book, Self-Healing by Design, The Role of Microorganisms for Health, Miss O'Neill refers to the, quote, the compelling evidence linking fungus with cancer. She refers to Simoncini having, quote, phenomenal results by treating cancer with a very simple treatment that has been used to treat fungus in agriculture for many years. Sodium bicarbonate. Baking soda. In her lecture, Cancer Causes and Treatments, Miss O'Neill states that Simoncini had a, quote, 90% success rate for cancer by injecting it with sodium bicarbonate. And in every case, Simoncini found cancer to be fungus.
Okay, all right. I don't even know how to reply. I don't even have there isn't even a funny part there.
Nope. He was injecting people with baking soda.
Well, here's the thing. You know what else kills fungus?
Yeah.
Bleach.
Oh, yeah. I heard that gets rid of stuff if you put that, inject it.
Hey, why don't we...
Hold on. We'll take a break in a minute.
Okay.
I got just a little bit forward. Just a little bit. Okay.
Just a little bit.
As noted above, Miss O'Neill is a proponent of Simoncini's cancer theory. The commission's research revealed that Simoncini was found guilty of manslaughter for treating a patient with a brain tumor with sodium bicarbonate.
A brain tumor?
Mm-hmm.
He put baking soda on their brain.
And then was convicted of manslaughter in Italy. Okay.
You're right. I'm glad we waited before the break. But real fast, I immediately started thinking of in the 80s, there was a very famous PSA that said, this is your brain. And then they'd show a frying pan and they'd show an egg. And they held up the egg and they said, this is your brain. And then they'd crack the egg and they pour it into the hot frying pan and they would fry the egg.
Yeah.
And they go, this is your brain on drugs. And I would do the same thing, be like, this is your brain. And I'd crack it from, this is your brain on Italian baking soda. Because what are we fucking talking about here? He injected it into their brain and he went to jail for murder. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Murder.
All right, one more
To quote
sentence,
Alan
and
Cummings.
one more little, this is under the same section.
Oh my
and then we
God.
can go to break.
Okay.
Mrs. O'Neill stated that she agrees with the views expressed by Simoncini when asked during the interview as to what Mrs. O'Neill meant when she stated in her lectures that Simoncini had a, quote, 90% success rate with cancer. Mrs. O'Neill could not explain what was underpinning this statistic. She conceded that she was quoting theories without being sure of the details.
So she's just making up statistics.
Yeah.
You know what? 30% of all quacks do that. That's the thing I have to. I've actually, since we've started doing this podcast about 2 years ago, there's certain language I go out of my way, especially when making social media posts, to not use.
Yeah.
And because like sometimes you throw in a little percentage, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
50% of the time, half the time, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
75%, I'm 80% sure. All these different things. First thing I've discovered slowly over time from reading comment sections is people actually don't understand what percentages are.
No.
They don't understand them as a basis of fractions.
No.
And how to bring those things out. But the second thing is that is bullshit. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, unless they can go right back to like this study right here said it, I'm like, I don't believe that percentage.
Yeah. I would say that when I was learning fractions and percentages
At a Catholic school.
Hear me out. I got a positive on you on this one.
Okay.
When people in the class were having difficulties understanding percentages,
Yeah.
what that means in comparison to 100%.
Yeah.
My teacher at the time said, I want you all to picture that you're in the bathroom stall and you're in there and you're sitting down, you're going to the bathroom, and your door is 10% open. You're not too embarrassed. You're like, I'm going to keep peeing. Not a big deal. Your door is open 30%. You might be hurrying up. You can't, because you can't reach the door in this scenario.
Yeah.
You can't reach the door to close it, but because you're peeing, you're holding your squat. And she's like, now your door's 50% open. Everybody can see you.
Yeah.
This is very embarrassing. You need to actually do the little duck walk over and close that door. So I learned percentages as whether or not the door to the bathroom stall was open.
I like that you were taught math through shame.
Catholic.
That is the most Catholic shit I have ever heard. How much shame would you feel?
Yeah, how much shame
but
would you
that's
feel?
not a visualization of a percentage. That's also a round percentage. Like instead of saying like there's 100 people and 10% means 10 people raise their hand, or there's 200 people, which means 20 people raise their hand. Like to show 20 over 100. Like that is still not a good way of teaching it.
It still works.
But they taught you wrong. I want you to know that.
Okay.
That's why you had to learn algebra again before you went to community college.
Yeah.
They literally gave you an algebra test and they were
know.
like, you were going back to what we teach ninth graders.
And I said, bet.
Yeah, because Catholic, they spend more time teaching you shame about peeing and then teaching you cherubims versus seraphim angels in Catholic school, which is why people like Barbara O'Neill can go out there and say shit and people don't push back.
No.
I'm so glad. Honestly, I'm glad that she posted this shit on YouTube just so other random nurses could find it and then go file this
Report
complaint.
her. Well, listen, let's take a break.
Let's take
and
a
we'll
break.
come back and
then we'll find out how I'm
how
guessing
this ends.
I'm guessing she moves to America so that way she can't get sued.
What? Come on.
I'm guessing. It's that or she died.
Okay.
It's one or the other. It's either she's no longer alive or she lives in America now and is ducking lawsuits.
Quack, quack.
I think J.K. Rowling's going to move to America as well. It's because of the Imane Khalif.
Oh, I thought it was the mold in her castle.
Oh, no. She loves the mold. All right. That's why she would push back on whether or not fungus causes cancer.
Oh.
Because that would mean she has a Scottish cancer castle.
All right, we're back.
We're back. We're here.
So listen,
Okay.
the next little blibbit on here
Yeah.
is called Mainstream Treatment. In her lecture, Part 12, Sodium Bicarbonate Wrap, that's the title.
Okay.
Miss O'Neill states that...
How do you wrap? I'm sorry. That's the
Oh,
one
you don't know
thing-
what a wrap is? Okay, so basically they cover your whole body in something. So like I've gone to a spa and gotten a mud wrap.
Yeah.
And they cover you in like a really fancy mud that's good for your skin.
Okay.
And they wrap you in saran wrap so that the heat and the moisture opens your pores up.
So they're tenderizing people. is
They're
what doing.
tenderizing people.
They're putting baking soda on people, and then they're wrapping them in saran wrap. I'm sure she probably has like burlap or some
Yeah,
weird
she has.
shit.
Well, no, she probably has like a zip up, like almost like a sleeping bag, probably.
Okay.
But yeah, you know what's really funny? When you know how when you eat Chinese food, the chicken and beef sometimes has that very specific texture that you can't get if you're just like making your own chicken and beef.
Yeah.
That's because they usually put a little bit of baking soda in the meat.
Okay.
So you're right. It is actually a tenderizing agent.
Yeah. I think I've seen like there's a tenderizer, and I've also seen you like use other different types of meat tenderizer, and then hit it with a hammer.
I love
if she was punching them in the head,
okay, she's not going to.
I know, she's not going to punch them in the head.
So, Mrs. O'Neill states that the cancer treatment at Misty Mountain Health Center would, quote, be almost a waste if a person was to do it along with chemotherapy. So don't waste your time on chemo.
Wait.
If you're doing the.
But also, I would like to point something out. Real fast. Look at me. They have free healthcare in Australia.
Yeah.
So it costs money to go to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, $2,000 something for a week.
Yeah. Or you go to the National Health Service and you get cancer treatment from their government
with the doctors
for free.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Chapter 6 of her book, Self-Healing by Design, The Role of Microorganisms for Health, Mrs. O'Neill concluded that, quote, toxic treatments such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy are, quote, dangerous approaches involving risks. Common sense speaks to us that the treatment that burns, poisons, and slashes the human body is contrary to the body's healing mechanisms.
So, real fast, what could be bad with chemo or radiation? If the only argument that she could use would be through chemo or radiation that you can actually cause more cancer, because there is like a possibility of that, right? It's a slight, but there is a possibility. However, she can't argue that because she believes that all cancer is caused by fungus.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest person I've ever met.
During the interview, Mrs. O'Neill did not initially accept that her publications could encourage people to forego mainstream treatments such as chemotherapy.
Yeah.
She stated that she doesn't tell people what to do, besides give them the information, and it is up to the people on how they interpret her. Mrs. O'Neill eventually conceded that in her opinion, her treatment was more likely to be successful if the patient stopped chemotherapy. Further, she accepted that her book would discourage someone from undertaking mainstream treatment of cancer. In addition, so I've skipped ahead a bit here.
She hit them with the crypto bro advice, by the way.
Yeah.
That's exactly. What she. I'm not saying put your entire life savings into Buttcoin.
Yep.
I'm not saying that. But I am saying, though, if you don't do that, then my strategy won't work. And my strategy, by the way, is not financial advice. I would like everyone to know that Buttcoin, which I am the chief investor of and not going to actually disclose anywhere, and once enough of you invest in it, I will pull all of my money out of it and it will collapse.
Yeah.
I am not saying that this is financial advice, but if you don't do this, you will die poor. Or in her case, you'll just die.
Yeah, allegedly. So then what they did here in the commission is they pulled testimonials, and we're going over testimonials with her.
They reverse Google reviewed her.
So there's a story. Miss O'Neill had referred to another woman completing a program at Misty Mountain. So when she's doing these talks on YouTube and at the churches and stuff, she always says like, oh, this client Elizabeth, oh, this client Mary, and like their positive story.
Yeah.
So they pulled those, right? On website interview 12 Questions for a Naturopath, Mrs. O'Neill shared a story about a woman named Emily who had liver and bone cancer. She called her 3 months after her attendance at the retreat and told her that a scan had confirmed the tumor on her liver was gone. In a lecture called Part 12 Sodium Bicarbonate Wrap, Miss O'Neill shared a story about Eileen, who had breast cancer and chose the program at Misty Mountain Retreat instead of surgery, chemotherapy, or radiotherapy. Miss O'Neill stated that she called her 8 months later from the program and said she didn't understand the results of the test she had undertaken, but found out that all of her cancers were gone. During this interview with the commission, Miss O'Neill confirmed that she had not seen any medical reports or test results in relation to Elizabeth, Emily, or Eileen. Miss O'Neill told commission officers that these women had read their medical reports to her over the phone. She had no communication with their treatment practitioners. Miss O'Neill believed that she is qualified to interpret complex medical records. Miss O'Neill told the commission officers that she relied on her knowledge of medical terminology from her training nursing in the 1970s and her course as a nutritionist in interpreting these medical reports. Mrs. O'Neill also believes that it was appropriate for her to share the above stories publicly based on only what she had been relayed by her patients without the need to verify those facts herself.
But also, I would like to point out that she says that modern mainstream modern mainstream medicine is a lie, right? But she is relying on reports that are being put forward by modern mainstream medicine to prove that the cancer is gone. So, like, I would just like to point that out.
Yeah.
I would just like to point out that the only reason she believes the cancer is gone is because she's reading medical reports that are being provided by actual doctors.
I would like to say that I'm currently reading a report.
Yeah.
And I'm not interpreting it.
You're not.
I'm just reading what is here.
Yep.
And I am not a professional.
Yeah.
So I can't interpret this. I'm just telling you what it says.
Yeah, you're reading verbatim.
And then we're saying what our opinions are based on what I'm reading.
Yeah.
Just our opinions.
Yeah.
Also, I am skipping around a lot because this is real hefty.
Yeah.
So please know that I am skipping bits and
you're jumping
pieces.
around. I'm seeing you switch over pages.
Yeah.
You guys can't see that because you can. If you're all watching the YouTube, you're only seeing me stare at you as you flip through pages.
Antibiotics and labor. January 2019, the commission received another complaint from person C, who was a dietitian and nutritionist, regarding that Miss O'Neill had been providing pregnant women advice not to take antibiotics for streptococcus, strep B, in particular.
Strep throat. She's telling people not to take antibiotics if they have strep throat.
Yeah.
Okay.
In particular,
she's trying to kill them.
This person raised the following concern that Mrs. O'Neill's lecture entitled "Empowering Your Immune System." Mrs. O'Neill stated that, quote, "No baby has ever died from strep B catching out of birth." Miss O'Neill stated, quote, "If a woman has an antibiotic through labor, the antibiotic in her pregnancy, or even a year before she gives birth, the antibiotic breaks down the gut flora so that the mother can't compromises the gut flora of the baby. Because something even more serious could happen and the baby could be born compromised gut flora, now the baby has lost the ability to finally break down, absorb, or have nourished cells."
I swear, anytime I hear the term gut flora, I immediately want to run these people over with a lawnmower.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that they think it's flowers. I think they honestly believe that we have flowers in our intestine, like actual flowers, and that doing anything to that destroys the Garden of Eden that is our butthole. Like, these people are insane.
Yeah. And to be clear, this type of streptococcus isn't like throat. This is in the birthing canal.
Oh, it's in the birthing canal. Okay.
You get tested for it, and you have to take antibiotics before you give birth.
Gotcha. I thought it was strep throat.
No.
I would guess it's a different type of strep.
It's different strep, and the baby can get it on the way out.
Okay.
If you do the...
But gut flora, babe. Gut flora.
Yeah.
Think of the gut flora.
I've been thinking about it. In her complaint, Person A referenced the statistics that the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Obstetricians,
Obstetricians.
Thank you, and gynecologists, which indicate that early onset strep B has contemporary fatality rate of approximately 14%, and that can be reduced by 80% with the use of antibiotics. Mrs. O'Neill responds to this complaint. She states that she has been, quote, "talking to midwives and nurses for years about the issue of strep B, and the consensus is always that they have never seen an occurrence." Further, she states that, quote, "personally, she has never seen a fatality from strep B in babies."
Of course she hasn't, because she's not delivering them.
No.
She's not working in a maternity ward. She is just some lady who yaps. She's a yapper. All she does is yap. I hate this person. I didn't know who this person was 53 minutes and 39 seconds ago, and now she's my mortal enemy.
Yeah. Let's skip up to vaccinations. That'll make you like her. Like her.
Let's fucking go.
On December 18, the commission received a complaint from another person.
This is pre-COVID. This is before COVID, by the way.
2018, yeah.
This is, I would like to note for everyone, we haven't even gotten to the Super Bowl of fucking vaccines out here.
And this person was worked for the vaccination advocacy group that filed this complaint.
Okay.
They're all anonymous, but they do say what their professions are.
Yeah.
Regarding the information Mrs. O'Neill had provided in her lectures regarding the safety and efficacy of vaccinations. In particular, Person C had raised concerns regarding comments made Mrs. O'Neill in her lecture entitled "Children's Nutrition." These comments below were extracted from that. Quote, the human body was designed to heal itself and does not need to be vaccinated. Quote, children can be naturally vaccinated against tetanus by drinking plenty of water and going to bed early and just not eating junk food and running around the hills.
Against tetanus?
Against
She
tetanus.
thinks they can be naturally vaccinated against rusted nails.
See, because again, the running around the hills is where you're going to find the nails.
That's exact. What the fuck are they talking about?
Quote, the public is being lied to about vaccines. Quote, there are no safe vaccines. Quote, vaccinations contain neurotoxins. Neurotoxins and vaccinations have caused an epidemic of ADHD, autism, epilepsy, and death. There it is. Quote, most doctors are not aware of the dangers of vaccines because they have not done their research.
Time out. I would like to stress something very fast. Autism is not a death sentence. These weird freaks constantly bring up that having autism is worse than death.
Yeah.
Being autistic, having autism, any of these different things, anything that they claim is always them denigrating an entire group of people. Mm-hmm. They always like to go after people who have any sort of, they aren't 100% whatever. But especially with autism, they always act like if they're autistic,
yeah,
autistic people can fully function in society.
Yeah.
It's
better.
Yeah. What the fuck are we doing here?
Well, you brought this up earlier because this is her quote. Dr. Andrew Wakefield's research indicated that MMR vaccine was linked to autism and published in The Lancet, but later retracted because of the medical pharmaceutical conspiracy to silence him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who was trying to sell his own vaccine.
Yeah.
It spun. Like, that's the thing. I would like everybody to remember. H-Bomber guy has done videos on this. A bunch of different people have done videos explaining this over the years. The guy who started the anti-vaccine movement.
Who Jenny McCarthy made famous.
Who Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey made famous. Because a lot of people like to leave Jim Carrey out of it.
I'm not leaving him out of it.
I'm not leaving him out of it either. A lot of people like to leave Jim Carrey out of it because he was dating Jenny McCarthy at the time. Jim has since distanced himself from that movement, but he was a part of it. When they pushed that, Andrew Wakefield's entire original idea was to get people to use his vaccine. He became an anti-vaccine grifter because he could no longer make money because his vaccine sucked.
Yeah.
And slowly he lost his medical license because, again, he had super fans. And his super fans had been paying him to travel around the world and spread their crazy ideas because then they can go and use this in the soup of conspiracy theories.
Next quote. If you stop taking the flu shot, it will prevent you from getting Alzheimer's disease. In response to Person C's complaint, Mrs. O'Neill defended all of her above statements in relation to vaccines.
I would like her to defend herself from a mountain lion.
Mrs. O'Neill states that there was a decline in the incidence of measles, whooping cough, and polio before vaccinations were introduced, and there is very little to fear with these illnesses. Mrs. O'Neill claims that all vaccinations contain aluminum and formaldehyde, which can damage nerve cells, contribute to autism and epilepsy.
I hate this person.
She is the worst.
I'm not hitting allegedly on that. She is the worst.
The worst. Okay, so what was the next thing I have here highlighted? Mrs. O'Neill acknowledges there being multiple causes of Alzheimer's disease, however, claims that mercury in the flu shot may contribute to it. Mrs. O'Neill states that from her reading, she does not believe that any criticism of Dr. Wakefield's research is anything, quote, anything more than a manufactured protecting of the interests of their products, as in Big Pharma. Mrs. O'Neill draws from her own experience with her children who had no problem despite not being vaccinated, and discussions she's had with mothers and nurses regarding the negative impacts of vaccines.
I would also like to stress that Mrs. O'Neill, I was thinking about it more. Have you ever seen the movie The Mist?
Yeah.
She is the crazy lady in the grocery store who is screaming that we all need to turn to God as the mist monsters are ripping people alive outside.
Yeah.
And trying to open the doors.
So I'm not going to read it because it's a really long paragraph.
Yeah.
But the commission started questioning her on this because remember, she said, oh, the numbers of polio and everything went down. And the commission started reading her to filth. They're like, this is why it went down. We can prove that the vaccines are the reason that children's death dropped. Blah, blah, blah. And so they read her to filth and she goes, I guess if you say so. Very much that.
When I was in fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher survived polio.
Yeah.
he had to permanently for the rest of his life. He had crutches, fourth grade teacher. He had specialized crutches, and he had to wear leg braces for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I remember as a child him explaining to us that he's like, this happened to me, but it won't happen to kids again.
Yeah.
Because of the miracle of vaccines. He's like, if the polio vaccine hadn't been invented, you would see more people like me. And if you went back to before you were born, there were people like me everywhere.
Yeah.
They were just hidden from public view.
Yep.
And a big thing that people like Mrs. O'Neill, like Barbara O'Neill of New South Wales, Australia, like to push is an idea that autistic people, that people who suffered from polio, any of these different things didn't exist because these people didn't exist in media that glorifies the time. Mm-hmm. It's like looking at a cigarette ad from 1955 and saying, well, they didn't have cancer back then. Obviously, this is big pharma pushing that cigarettes cause cancer because they don't want you to know that cigarettes actually make your dick work better. Okay. And this is actually big Viagra and the makers of Blue Chew in a conspiracy
Allegedly.
To make you not know
Just an opinion.
that cigarettes will make sure that you don't have erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
That's the same logic she's using, just so you know.
So listen, this complaint goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
it's
of
a
course.
thick
It's
boy.
a thick one.
What I want to do, for the essence of time, is jump ahead, because what the commission also did is they checked their sources. They wanted to know, hey, tell me more about your resume.
Okay.
And so let's go into that. Education, whole section titled Education.
Oh, this is her whole chunk on education. This is what Mrs. O'Neill did.
In her resume, Mrs. O'Neill states that she was a psychiatric nurse at North Ryde Psychiatric Hospital between 1974 and 1976. At the interview, Mrs. O'Neill confirmed that she was a trainee nurse during this period and did not sit for her final exams at the end of the 3 years to obtain a badge of registration by the state registering authorities. Mrs. O'Neill did not return to nursing at any stage after 1976.
Got it. Got it.
The next qualification listed on Mrs. O'Neill's resume is a diploma in naturopathy obtained from the Thomson Institute of Australia in 1990. At time of interview, Mrs. O'Neill clarified that the Thomson Institute was run by Mr. Fred Steed at Coffs Harbour, who is no longer alive, and therefore the institute is not operating in Coffs Harbour anymore. Mrs. O'Neill explained that she did not undertake any coursework, and the diploma had been awarded to her under the grandfather clause because of her, quote, helping young mothers in the region. Internet searches by the commission have not found any information about the institute. However, searches have confirmed that Mr. Fred Steed was an herbalist in Coffs Harbour who died in 2007. Mrs. O'Neill states that she has lost her certificate of diploma given the circumstances. It's just been so long. The commission has been unable to verify Mrs. O'Neill's qualifications. However, the commission research via the Australian government training website indicates that the Thomson Institute is neither a current or past registered training organization and does not appear to have at any time have been approved by the RTO to deliver a diploma of naturopathy.
So she went to a fake school after never passing her training as a psychiatric nurse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she was supposed to work in a mental institution.
Yeah.
And now she's telling people how to treat their cancer from reading a book by a murderer who was putting baking soda on people's brains.
The last qualification on Mrs. O'Neill's resume is a diploma in nutrition and dietetics from the International Christian and Natural Therapy Incorporated. Hold on, I'm going to take it a step. Okay. Her last qualification, on Mrs. O'Neill's resume, is a diploma in nutritional and dietetics from the International Christian and Natural Therapists Incorporated, which calls itself I Can't Incorporated.
No. Let me see that.
I can't.
It does. They have it right here. International Christian and Natural Therapist Incorporated.
I can't.
I can't, Inc.
I can't.
At the interview, Mrs. O'Neill confirmed this qualification took her 3 to 4 years to attain and involved a correspondence course and 2 weeks of face-to-face lecturing every year. That's it?
Yeah. I can't.
It says after that they write I can't Inc.
I can't.
According to Mrs. O'Neill, I Can't was a registered training organization. However, it shut down 3 years ago. I
can't. Here, wait, give me the paper back.
This is what?
Let's see.
Oh, yeah, and the fact that you found this woman and then were like, I have to call Australia to pull this document. This
according
is so insane.
to Mrs. O'Neill, I Can't was a recognized training organization. However, they shut down. Internet searches by the commission have not found any information about this organization apart from an old Facebook page, which contains no details. ACIS searches have revealed that the organization was registered in Queensland as an association with a registration number and deregistered in 2018. Given the circumstances, the commission has not been able to attain any further information about Mrs. O'Neill's qualifications from I Can't Incorporated. However, the commission's research via the Australian government training website indicates that I Can't Incorporated is neither a current or past register and does not appear at any time to have been approved for RTO to deliver diplomas in nutrition or dietetics.
This is so fucking
During
insane.
the interview, Mrs. O'Neill confirmed that she has never held any membership with any professional associations, and she conceded that she does not meet the minimum qualification requirements for membership. The Commission's inquiries have confirmed that the Australian Natural Therapists Association require a bachelor's degree or a graduate diploma. The Nutrition Society of Australia requires a 3-year university degree or equivalent, and the Dietitians Association of Australia requires a master's or a bachelor's degree, and the Naturopaths Association of Australia requires a bachelor's degree. She doesn't have any of these.
I would also just like to go back onto the nursing thing. Mm-hmm. Because she said they said it was 73 to 76, right? Something like that. So beyond the fact that it's psychiatric, and I think it's similar. Isn't like Dr. Phil? I think Dr. Phil's actual degree is in like physical education or something like that. It's something crazy. Some of these guys get doctorates and then they go and they just apply it to anything. In her case, she not only did she not get past training, right, but it was in the 70s. We were still shocking people with electrodes then.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane.
Girl interrupted stuff.
I know, but like, her training is older than me. I would like to repeat that. She stopped training. She never passed her training 8 years before I was born.
Yeah.
I am 40.
As noted above, Mrs. O'Neill's work as a trainee nurse at North Ryde Psychiatric Hospital concluded in 1976. She did not qualify as a registered nurse. Between 1976 and 1995, Mrs. O'Neill has listed her employment as, quote, mother / family responsibilities in raising 6 children and the study of natural medicine and treatments. So I think this is when she is experimenting on her 6 kids.
Yeah, that's 100%. Well, you know what? Honestly, 6, that's a pretty good grouping, though. Like, if we're going to sit
percentages?
Yeah, no, but like if she's like, well, you know, I gave this kid, which I wonder which one of them was the control. If she's really doing experiments, which one of them, in her mind,
the oldest daughter,
did she hate the most?
The oldest daughter.
Okay.
So Mrs. O'Neill's next work experience was the Living Valley Springs Retreat in Queensland. From 1995 to 1998, which was as a health center supervisor. From 1998 to 2003, Mrs. O'Neill had stated she was working at Mountain View Health Retreat in Victoria as the health director. From 2003 until 2018, Miss O'Neill had been working as Misty Mountain as health director and health lecturer. Misty Mountain is managed by Mrs. O'Neill's husband. On their website, Misty Mountain promises that their detox programs can help recovering from heart disease, chronic fatigue, blah, blah, blah. During the interview, Mrs. O'Neill stated that she was not involved in the business side of things at Misty Mountain. Mr. O'Neill advised the commission that Mrs. O'Neill is not on the board of directors of the entity. Mr. O'Neill indicated that Misty Mountain receives approximately 300 visitors per year. All of the visitors are asked to complete a health questionnaire, and people who are unable to care for themselves are refused entry to the retreat. So these are her qualifications.
Okay.
Okay. So she doesn't have them. That's what I'm getting at. She has no qualifications.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. I'm not going to read it all. In the findings and determination, here's my summary. They said, you don't have the training. You don't have the experience. You failed to maintain any records of any of the health advice you've ever given out.
Yep. You're a liar.
It was ultimately found that you have breached the clauses of the Code of Conduct of Unregistered Health Practitioners, and you pose a health and safety risk to the general public. On September 24th of 2019, the HCCC indefinitely banned O'Neill from providing health services or education in any capacity, regardless of whether or not she accepted payment for doing so. So she wasn't allowed to do it for free.
Yeah.
This precludes her from giving lectures, public speaking, or seeing clients.
She's banned from being an amateur fake doctor.
Yep.
Damn.
Banned. In late 2019, O'Neill and her husband's Misty Mountain Health Retreat came under investigation by Australian charities and the Nonprofit Commission for alleged breaches of Australian charity law. Under its health promotion charity status, the retreat had received government grants and various tax concessions.
Oh.
In defending its status, the retreat had claimed it had provided diet and exercise and health advice to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just fucking, they haven't been through enough.
Yeah. They lost charity status and were forced to change their name. So originally, I had told you it was called the Misty Mountain Health Retreat. They were forced by the government to call it Misty Mountain Lifestyle Retreat because they cannot provide health treatment.
Yeah.
Although the HCCC ruling prevented her from providing and promoting services, O'Neill continued to advertise through her website that about the Misty Mountain Lifestyle Retreat. So she would advertise it as an owner, but she wasn't allowed to talk about like her giving speeches or anything there.
Yeah. Because if she did, she would be fined.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So she's like, listen, I have this message of health that I need to spread.
Real quick.
In search of a place where someone could go practice quackery without the bummer of things like regulations, medical training, and oversight. Barbara did the one thing we all knew she would do. She moved to fucking America, baby. Woo! Girl, let's go. USA, USA.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. I was like, where can she go where she can just say whatever the fuck she wants and face no goddamn consequences while fucking hurting as many people and children as possible.
Taste the freedom.
So real quick, I was doing the math. They said they got 300 people visiting Misty Mountain a year.
Yeah.
At $2,000. That's $600,000.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they had special favored tax status and were getting grants.
Yeah.
So, okay, I just want to point out to everybody that they were making at least well over $500,000 Australian a year through this grift, not counting selling books.
And the YouTube views.
Or the YouTube.
Even though she says it's not her channel.
Yeah, not counting anything else, just alone by running Misty Mountain. Mrs. Barbara Smog O'Neill was able to collect and gobble up some dollars there, while also hurting indigenous Aboriginal people to the area. Yeah. And now she lives in America. I
couldn't figure out where she lives, but she is part of the Living Springs Retreat, which is located in Roanoke, Alabama, which is about an hour outside of Atlanta.
Oh, good.
On their website, it says in all caps, please note, though we occasionally host programs with Barbara O'Neill, she does not live or work here. But when I was clicking through their website, I was on their social media page, and it's like, click to follow us here. And the link sent me to barbarao'neill.com.
Oh.
So
here's the good news.
Yeah.
Here's the good news. Barbara is specifically targeting Seventh-day Adventists and people inside like the Christian messaging, right? And she's down there in Alabama. And I feel like she probably has some underlying white supremacist bigoted views that are also kind of bubbling through all this, the way that she took advantage of Aboriginal people and others, which means she is going to be targeting like white churches in Alabama. So like to me, at the end of the day, she's going to be changing the voting habits of people down there, because I don't know if y'all know this. It's very difficult. To vote
the last
from a grave.
Well, The last piece of information I gathered on Barbara O'Neill. On March 6th of 2024, that's when a book was published in paperback called The Assassination of Barbara O'Neill by her husband, Michael O'Neill.
Okay.
And the book quote says, "How could a 66-year-old grandmother who gave her life to helping people with their health become the subject of a malicious smear campaign which resulted in her being classified as a serious threat to public health in Australia?"
This is amazing. I just pulled up. So when you were talking earlier, just to show everybody on the YouTube, I shared my screen and just did a Google image search of her.
Yeah.
And I saw the book, The Assassination of Barbara O'Neill. I was like, that looks crazy. Because it's a bright red cover.
Yeah.
It's lunatic shit, right? This is classic lunatic. Look at how they are denigrating me, like this thing, right? So I'm looking at this cover. But then I noticed there's another one over here, and it's Amazon.com. And this has the back of one of her books, The Role of Microorganisms for Your Health by Barbara O'Neill.
We talked about that one during the commission
Yeah.
research.
But this is the back. This is the back of
Read it to me.
A child of the 60s and 70s revolution, the author, Barbara O'Neill, started her working life in 1969 as a hairdresser, then as a psychiatric nurse, lived as a hippie, birthed 6 children, studied naturopathy and nutrition, became a stepmother of 2 more children, and has worked as a health director at 2 Australian health and wellness retreats. Barbara's experience, knowledge, and common sense of lecturing have made her a popular and sought-after speaker in Australia and internationally. What a load of shit. Mm-hmm. This is just a lady who's just been around. That's it. That's her claim to fame.
And so that is my opinions and some information I gathered.
Yes.
And just a big old dash of allegedlys. About Barbara O'Neill, a woman who
is a bag of shit.
Was quackery out in Australia and then fled to the United States.
Yeah, where she's currently running around now.
Yep.
But the good news is she'll drink some raw goat milk and this issue will take care of itself. That's the thing with all these fucking people. Like, fuck this lady.
Yep.
I just want to state that again. Fuck this lady.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
No, I'm really mad.
I know, you should be.
I'm really very mad.
She really put a lot of people at risk.
She really and she's continuing to do so.
Yeah, she is.
And it was funny when she did it over there on her weird little Australia island, but now she's doing it here to Americans?
Okay.
No. How dare you?
But listen, I feel like when it comes to Quack Month,
yeah,
I went real hard.
You did go really hard. I know it was a shorter Quack Month this year due to all the other things that have been going on with us and everything else, but I do want to say you did a really great job on this one.
Thank you.
And look at that. Good. She has YouTube shorts that have more views than mine. I just pulled her up.
Yeah. I think that's the crazy thing is that because she is so now.
Yeah.
Like usually when we're talking about quackery, it's like the past. And like, no, this is happening now. Like she's getting the views now.
Yeah. No, she 100% is getting the views now. But let's go ahead and let me just play.
Don't you play one of her shorts.
I'm going to play it.
You can also take it for low hydrogen.
Oh, no, I was playing through the wrong thing. I can't play it on here. So that's fine. I don't want to give
a review.
No, that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just get us wrapped up. I think that's the best way to get done
Let's
today.
get out of this.
So as we said before, everybody, this episode was pre-recorded, so we do not have any shout-outs this week, but we will be back next week with all of our shout-outs. We want to thank everybody who is a member of our Patreon at patreon.com/Pearlmania500, but also at pearlmania500.net, all the different fun ways to get there. Thank you guys for another fabulous week, and we are excited to see you all very, very soon. Mrs. P, any last words?
Last words?
Yeah.
Have a great week, everybody.
And what's the secret phrase for the comments?
Damn it. Why? I need you to ask me this sooner. Oh, I can't.
I can't?
I can't.
Just I can't.
I can't.
I can't.
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember remember to smile.